Most people believe they are in control of their own decisions. They assume their choices are the result of conscious thought, personal values, and deliberate reasoning. But psychology tells a more complex story. Human behavior is rarely guided by pure intention. In most situations, it is shaped quietly, influenced by forces that operate long before we become aware of them. These forces do not announce themselves. They blend into the background of everyday life. In this video, we will explore how control actually works. Not through force or domination, but through subtle psychological mechanisms that guide behavior without resistance. Control rarely appears as something imposed. More often, it presents itself as normality, as routine, as professionalism, as the way things are simply done. Because when control feels normal, it rarely feels questionable. People follow rules they never explicitly agreed to. They accept structures they did not create. They comply with expectations they have never consciously examined. This does not happen because people are weak or incapable of independent thought. It happens because the human mind is deeply responsive to structure, legitimacy, and social context. We are social beings, and our behavior adjusts continuously to the environments we occupy. To understand behavior, we need to move beyond the idea that decisions are made in isolation. Psychological research consistently shows that context shapes action more powerfully than intention alone. Environment influences behavior. Hierarchy influences judgment. Tone influences compliance. Control works best when it feels natural, when nothing appears forced and no alternatives seem necessary. When people believe they are choosing freely, they rarely question how limited the range of options actually is. One of the most effective sources of control is authority. Not authority based on threat or punishment, but authority rooted in legitimacy. Titles, uniforms, professional language, and institutional symbols all communicate credibility. These signals do not demand obedience directly. Instead, they trigger automatic psychological responses. They reduce uncertainty, lower internal conflict, and make compliance feel appropriate within the situation. People comply not because they are ordered to, but because compliance feels correct. It feels expected. It feels aligned with how a reasonable person should behave. The most powerful forms of control rarely rely on direct commands. They operate through expectations. When individuals sense what is expected of them, behavior adjusts automatically. No instruction is required. No confrontation takes place. The environment itself does the work. This is why context matters so much. Why norms are powerful. Why silence can exert more influence than explicit rules. Control does not need to be visible to be effective. It only needs to be understood. Another important aspect of control is the diffusion of responsibility. In the presence of authority, individuals often feel less personally accountable for their actions. Responsibility shifts upward, and decision-making begins to feel external. This is why people so often explain their behavior by saying they were simply following instructions. Control does not eliminate moral awareness, it redistributes it. These mechanisms are not limited to history or extreme situations. They operate quietly in everyday life. In workplaces. In schools. In families. In institutions of all kinds. Any system with hierarchy creates behavioral pressure, even when it appears reasonable or benign. Understanding control is not about rejecting structure or authority. It is about recognizing when behavior is being shaped without awareness. In modern life, control rarely feels oppressive or dramatic. It often appears as professionalism, efficiency, or common sense. People adapt not because they are forced to, but because adaptation feels reasonable. It feels aligned with who they believe they are. This is how control becomes sustainable. It does not rely on pressure. It relies on identification. When behavior feels self-chosen, resistance disappears. Influence becomes invisible. And control operates without friction. This is why understanding these mechanisms matters. Not to resist everything, but to recognize when decisions are being quietly shaped before they feel like decisions at all. Because the most powerful form of control is the one you do not notice while it is happening.